Okay, let's do it. This week, what are we going to talk about? Let's talk about a little tactic that I uncovered or learnt about in a book called Atomic Habits by I think a man named James Clear, I think his name. I can't remember exactly, but I think it might have been that. You can look it up. I definitely got the title right, can't remember if I got the author right. And it's kind of a habit tracker sort of thing, process, technique. So the best way to describe it, and is just probably just explaining how you do it, is you want to set up a spreadsheet. So any sort of spreadsheet will work, Microsoft Excel, any other spreadsheet related or type software will work. And what you want to do is, in the very first column, you want to have, like at the very top, you want to say, I don't know, like date or something. And then every row downwards, you want to have the date. So let's take today. So today's the February 26th, 2022. The day underneath that, or like the row underneath that, would be February 27, then 28th, and then we go to March, and then it keeps going all the way down. And you just pull that all the way down, like hundreds of rows, to the point where you have a day or a date row for, let's just say a couple of years. Oh, well, I've done it for a couple of years just because I went crazy when I pulled down the date thing. But so I've got it set up for 5 years. So sweet. And then so that's your first column, and then each subsequent column is a habit or something that you're meant to do on a daily basis. So when it comes to some of the other techniques and things we've talked about, or some of the habits that you should be kind of engaging in, for instance, reading, exercising, meditating, there might be some other ones like the consciousness one we talked about, writing your thoughts out on a A4 piece of paper. The list goes on. It could be anything else. It could be something like, I don't know, like quit smoking or like not smoking, and then you have like a daily counter. And the way it works is every single time you either accomplish the habit you want to, or that you do the thing that you weren't meant to do. So for instance, let's say you don't want to smoke, so you have one of your columns be don't smoke that day, and then let's say on that day you don't smoke. So at the end of it, what you do is you can just put like a tick, or maybe just what I do is I just put an X in that cell that aligns with that habit and that day. And what you'll find is that, it feels good to obviously get all ticks across, the board for that day. You can kind of feel good about yourself, and, it's a way to kind of keep tabs on those things and make sure that you do it. Or if you do miss it, that you're at least aware of it. And I think that's what's really good. It's not about really keeping score, because you might get confused and think, oh, well, you're just trying to keep score and yada, yada, yada and all that. It's not really about that. It's more about viewing how your habits have changed over time, and how you might have periods where you fall out of it, but then you come back, and then you can, or times where like maybe you do it one day, then you don't do it the next, then you do it then you do it the day after, and then the day after that you don't do it. So then you have like, the tick missing, and then another tick. So you can kind of see how your actions have played out over time, and how you've been able to engage with those habits, or how you've been able to avoid those bad behaviors that you haven't, that you don't want to be doing anymore. You can see how that's played out over time. And you can also think back to those moments in time and think, oh yeah, the reason why, or the challenge I was facing at the time, the reason, as to why I didn't really do that habit, or I did that thing that I shouldn't have been doing, was, X, Y, Z. And I can now think of reasons, or I can think of ways around, dealing with that. Or you can see periods where you had really great success, where you were ticking everything off across the board, day after day for weeks. And you can go back in time and think, what was I doing then where like everything just seemed to work? Like what like mental attitudes was I taking, and was I taking on at the time, and having going in my mind, that really made me able to, perform across the board. Now, it's not meant to be used for like big items or big one-off events. Like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It's meant to be those daily routine things that you do, that you or should or shouldn't be doing every single day. And, being able to kind of monitor that over time. When it comes to the big ticket items, or like really unique things where you might only do it once or twice, I think that's where something like another technique or another mechanism, such as a to-do list, is a good idea. Because what I had when I was doing to-do lists, I would have all of these daily routine related stuff that I'd have on that to-do list. And it kind of got ridiculous because it got to a point where I had like 20 different items on my to-do list, which there's nothing wrong with that, I guess, per se. Like there's nothing wrong, inherently wrong with that. And if that works for you, then 100% go for it. But I feel that just having this spreadsheet where you can, because it almost acts similarly like a to-do list because you're ticking it off, for the day. But, you also get that added benefit of being able to see the changes in behavior over time, which I think is really the core important idea and principle there. But yeah, so I had it like that where I had everything on a to-do list, and it just got laborious and really difficult because it felt like some of the really important key things that I had to do were getting chalked up with the daily stuff, and it kind of like priorities got misaligned and stuff like that because each row on the to-do list, even if it was just one of those daily habit routines, was given the same priority as, I don't know, something like, geez, well, I'm just trying to think at the top of my head something that it might have been. I don't know, like going to the bank and, sorting out, a banking issue, or, opening up a brand new banking account, or moving money or something to something else. Like those things that don't always come up all the time, but are also, of some, or of importance that you do actually need to get done. So I think differentiating the two and having a to-do list based for just like really core principal priority things that you need to get done, but then having the habits on the habit tracker as a kind of separate thing kind of can give that divide where you can prioritize things correctly. Not saying that the daily habits aren't important. In many respects, you could probably say they're very important, but the to-do list items probably have a time sensitivity thing. Like maybe you have to, move that money over to that bank account because, there's a payment due, or, something along those lines. Like there's some, external reason why there's, precedent or like, prime importance to that. Yeah, so it's something I do. I recommend it because it's not something you'd think about normally, because you'd think, oh yeah, the first action or the first kind of way you should view something like that is probably a to-do list, which I do like still recommend, and I do still think is really important. But yeah, being able to view your habits over time and see that play out is really insightful, and also can be quite motivating. Like for me, when I have periods where, I look back and I go, oh man, I was really slack at that, for that week or two, I was really slack and stuff. I try and think about like, ways I could get around that. Or if I had periods where I was really motivated and really getting everything ticked off, I try and think about what was I doing at the time, and like what was I thinking at the time that really made me do that. And it can kind of give you insights and guidance as to what you might need to be doing at the current moment. And that's just a resource, and it's just an additional resource. It's something that, in cooperation and with everything else, and in collaboration with everything else you're doing and all the other techniques that you're employing, this will just be another one of those things in your toolkit that will really aid you to kind of get the most out of your time and, make you feel like you're really achieving things. So, bit of a short one today. That's, just how it is. I've got some things on later tonight, so I thought I'd just get this one right out. But at the end of the day, when you still look at what this is and what this is dealing with, there is a lot of, self-development gold there. So, like always, thank you so much for, listening, and, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, don't fret. Try it maybe like for a little while. Like I said, it does take a little while to start up. I remember when I first started it I felt like I wasn't really doing anything because I only had 1 or 2 rows. But then by the time you get a couple months into it, you kind of see that you really reap the rewards. So yeah, give it a go and tell me what you think. Bye.